You can do this by pressing star 6. Please unmute yourself when called to speak, again pressing star 6. It's very important for all others to remain muted. Thank you. So we've called the meeting to order. I'll say good morning to my fellow commissioners. Good morning, Commissioner Scar.
Good morning.
And good morning, Commissioner Olson.
Good morning. Very icy, frosty morning, but it's a clear, nice morning.
I agree. It's beautiful. Well, let's jump right in with Adventist Health Tillamook and President Eric Swanson.
Hey, good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning.
We have 8 patients in the hospital today, plus 1 brand new baby, 12 surgery cases scheduled today, so busy day in surgery. Ambulance crews did 2 911 transports yesterday, no transfers, 2 transports home. 108 patients boarding in emergency departments, 2 more than yesterday, 340 patients who are discharge delays across Oregon. That's 2 less than yesterday. Just want to remind everybody that our friend Dr. Ben Douglas is retiring, and we're going to have a retirement celebration on the 19th from 1:30 to 3:30 at Pacific Restaurant. So if you're a friend of Dr. Douglas, if you've been a patient of his in the past and would like to come wish him well in retirement, please join us at Pacific Restaurant on the 19th. You'll have an opportunity to say goodbye and say thanks and wish him well in the next chapter of his life. That is all I've got for you this morning, unless you have questions for me.
Thank you, Eric. I don't have questions for you, but I wanted to let you know that last night I was at the TBCC board meeting, and we heard that the new winter cohort of nursing students has started. So I just wanted to share that with you. We have 16 students in the new cohort. 13 of them are local folks who want to be RNs. And so I was thinking about what that means for our medical community. And I just wanted to share the good news with you.
That is great news. That's a little, Christmas came early for us with that news. Very happy about that. It's a game changer having a nursing program with right here in our own community that's got plenty of Tillamook folks in it. So very exciting, and thank you to you and the other members of the board and TBCC for the great work on this nursing program. Very excited about it.
Thank you, and thank you for the excellent partnership.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, with that, if we don't have any more questions for Eric, we can move on to the Coastal Caucus. Do we have Senator Weber with us? I'll give her a moment to unmute.
I'm here.
Good morning.
Good morning. It is a nice clear day. And I really want to compliment TBCC on attracting 16 new folks to the program. I know how hard we work to be able to make sure that our community colleges could provide that, and it's good to see it coming to fruition. I appreciate everything that our Adventist group is doing, especially, welcoming the dialysis people too. But being able to have those folks willing to go to school and find out how to do it and do it right is wonderful. It's security for all of us. Well, I hope your Thanksgiving was memorable. I know we had lots of family and lots of good food, and I'm sure you all did too. And everyone throughout the week was worrying, of course, about Highway 6 and being able to get to Portland. I wanted you to know that I'm continuing to monitor what is going on, and Jesse Burrow is also paying close attention to what's happening on Highway 6. I noticed coming over back on Sunday that it was very clear that there may be some other areas where we're going to have difficulties, and it makes me concerned. So all you folks that are traveling over there, especially early in the morning, especially vigilant in the 31 to 35 mile posts. It's really important. And remember, that we are in one district for maintenance, and on, I think it's milepost 28, it changes to the other side. And so if you see things on this side, our team is taking care of it. And on the other side, the Manning district is taking care of that. I think that's the name. And they are also monitoring the temperatures and the conditions of the road. We haven't had much use for snowplows yet, but you never know what's going to happen. I have spent this week reading bills that are going to be coming forward, those proposed by committees and also by legislators, deciding what it is that I can support with some of this legislation. I think my team and I went through about 40 of them yesterday afternoon to see what it is being proposed. And you'll find out soon all of the issues that are going to be coming forward. And I'm sure because a lot of these are being proposed again that didn't get any steam in other sessions, to be able to hope that people will support it and go forward. Remember, I told you that each of the bills has to pass through either the House leader, Speaker, or the Senate President before they move on to committee. And so there are several steps that it takes to get something to a committee and to a group and to the floor to be voted on, which next week begins our December Ledge Days. I'm not sure if I'll be able to be here next Tuesday morning or not, but I will try. I'll be in Salem, whatever, but the telephone reaches that far. And we are projected to have a special session to deal with finance, especially to pay for our firefighters that we had hired by the state, contractors that we had hired by the state for this, especially volatile fire season. They haven't been paid yet, and there are many of them that are on the brink of bankruptcy. And the money has to be allocated to make sure that they are made whole, because we're going to turn around and we're going to be in the throes of another fire season, and we have to be able to depend on those firefighters for our security. Usually, the federal government, if it's a federal forest fire, they pay on time. FEMA is very slow to pay. And Oregon has also been slow to pay for our contractors. And so hopefully we can come to some sort of a conclusion that can make all of these folks whole. This Wednesday, I will also be testifying at the Oregon Transportation Commission. It is proposed that they are asking for $500 million for the Rose Quarter project. And in doing that, we had money that was coming to us for the bridge, the railroad bridge up on Juneau Hill. And we lost that this summer because of the Rose Quarter. And so I'm going to work especially on calling attention to the fact that, with all the tourists we have, all the people we have traveling through here, we need a secure transportation system too. And the $500 million is something that we need a part of, especially when we're looking at Highway 6, to be able to guarantee the security of the people that live here. And as we are encouraged to encourage tourism to a greater degree, we also need to be able to guarantee the security of those folks who come out here to the coast to enjoy the beauty that we have, that we're surrounded with. So I will probably be the grouchy grandma on Wednesday morning, but they have to be reminded. I have made sure that I have spoken to the Joint Transportation Committee on several times to remind them of our security on the coast also. So I'll keep doing that. I'm going to be meeting with a group that is going to be installing stop-arm cameras on school buses. We passed House Bill 4147, which is also in effect in 17 other states, which puts a camera on those stop arms. So when people violate the order to stop for school buses, they are recorded. So that is an important issue also. I have to say thank you to the guys from Hampton. You know, they come over and they put my Christmas lights up every year, and they did that last night, and I appreciate them so much. It doesn't take a long time, and we have a really good time because my husband had it all arranged as to how it, you know, all the lights are measured out, all the hooks are in the right place, all the tools to do it. But it's so nice to know that someone will come and help me do that. Tonight's the Pacific City Chamber Awards Banquet. And this is something that I'm sure Doug Olson will talk about, but it's an important event for South County. And I'm going to be in attendance to see who all those awards go to. I want to thank Jesse Burrow. He has organized a 501c3, and he had a dinner on Sunday night at Pacific Restaurant with Nelia's help to recognize our law enforcement in Tillamook County, and it was a great turnout. And we need to continue to make sure that our law enforcement is supported so that they can support us. And we've got other events coming, you know, the Pioneer Museum, the tree lighting, and the fundraiser there Friday night. It's fun. We went and decorated a tree yesterday. It's Rubylicious, and we had a lot of fun doing it, for the museum and supporting them in their efforts. And Tillamook is going to be turning on the lights on Saturday night. I think this is the 22nd year that we have done that. And so there's food. Entertainment starts at 3:30. Santa will arrive shortly after 3 o'clock. And it's a good community fun evening, and don't miss it. But you know what? We're seeing up and down the coast, our neighbors are participating in events like this too, bringing our communities together, celebrating the season. It's wonderful. It's wonderful to see the crab pot trees and the ones with the floats on them, and representing our communities up and down the coast. The other thing is, if you're going up Highway 101, circle around and see what's happening at the pool up in Nehalem. That building is looking fantastic, and they always need an extra dose of funds to be able to accomplish what they're doing up there, but it's going to be great. And I really compliment the community on what they have been doing to make sure that there are swimming lessons, and it really reduces the number of drowning deaths that we have because our kids know how to swim. And our YMCA does that same thing here in Tillamook. But especially living so close to so much water, we need to be able to make sure that our kids are protected. I've also been working on other issues within the district, and I will continue. I had a great conversation with a gentleman yesterday on the shipwreck that happened up north. That was the result of the beeswax and the mercury and everything else. And so working on issues for our area that are important. So if you have any questions, let me know here. Otherwise, we'll just keep working on every day.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate your report as ever. While you were talking about the bills that you and your staff are reviewing, I think you said you went through 40 bills the other day. Maybe you said yesterday. And I was wondering,
Yesterday.
how many people do you have working with you? How many people were working on going through 40 bills? That just seems like a lot of reading and reviewing.
I have two staff. I have my chief of staff, Katie Satanovich, and I have my political advisor, Adam Schwind, who is a Tillamook boy but doesn't live here anymore. But we are in constant content. We are in constant conversation about things that are going on and reading these bills. And, everyone asks for support for their bill, but you can't support something unless you know what it is and what their
Right.
aim is, what they intend to do, and how much it's going to cost and how it's going to affect our area. Especially things with wolf predation. I have to really consider how I support that. Do I support the farmers? What do I support? And how is it going to impact our area? And there are lots of other bills that are specific to an area. There's a bill right now that's talking about dredging, but it's dredging for the South Coast. Well, how is that going to impact Astoria and Halem and Garibaldi? Is there a possibility that they can be included in these bills? Rep. Javity is right now working on what our ports especially need concerning that, to be able to maybe incorporate that into a bill. So there's all kinds of little innuendos and pieces and parts that you have to consider when you're looking at these bills. But just because it's the South Coast, they're asking for the support from the North Coast also. So, and the wolf predation, or being compensated for the dogs that were killed by wolves, especially if they're livestock guard dogs, and that happens quite often too. And those are expensive dogs to have and to train and to keep. And so, what is the fair part of reimbursing people for these things and the state? And then there are some people who really want some new commissions established. And what are they? What will they do? How will they impact the state budget? What new laws will they bring about? So it goes on and on and on. It's quite interesting, really.
Well, it's very interesting. I'm so glad that you talked about the a potential bill for dredging on the South Coast and the possibility maybe of including the North Coast in that bill, because as you know, it's very expensive to do dredging, and it's a difficult but completely essential process for the Port of Garibaldi to go through. And if there's some relief for the South Coast to do that, I hope we can include the North Coast.
I hope so too, because we do have a state dredge, and the state dredge can move up and down the coast.
They do.
Not Garibaldi. Astoria has its own dredge, but it's not necessarily adequate for the amount of work that it has to do. So how can we, on the North Coast, utilize that dredge that belongs to the state?
Well, as far as I know, and I'm not speaking for the Port of Garibaldi, but I do talk to them, they use the state dredge. So this is kind of outrageous, actually, and you probably already know it, but just in case you don't, the Port of Garibaldi uses the state dredge. So they have to apply to the state for the permits to dredge. Then they have to borrow the money from the state to dredge, and then the state does the dredging. So doesn't it seem like there would be a more direct path. It seems to me like there should be some economic development funds available to help ports pay for that dredging, because all the work
Yes.
for the ports is straight up economic development.
Yes, it is. Yes, and that's something that Rep. Javity and I have had many conversations about, and the Port
Great.
of Garibaldi also.
Yeah, great.
So-
Well, and what you said about wolves is fascinating. I'd never even thought about when wolves kill livestock dogs. So it must just be very interesting to be able to review all those bills.
It is.
And I'm
Yes,
glad
it
you're
is.
working on the stop arm camera bill. That is, when you said that, I have this
Yeah.
visceral memory of being a much younger mom with my small child waiting for the bus on the side of a country road. The bus pulls up and stops. My son has to cross the road. You know, he's a little guy, like first grade, second grade, has to cross the road to get on the bus. So the bus stops, the camera goes up, we look, and a van zooms by the bus, passes the bus illegally, right in front of me and my son. And so it's one of those memories that sears in your mind as a parent, like, oh my God, that van could hit my child. And I saw the drivers, I made eye contact with the driver as she passed the bus. She saw me, she saw my child, and I saw it occur to her like, oh no, I shouldn't have just passed this bus. And I thought, why wouldn't she have known that? So it's
No.
it's crazy to me that anyone would not know that, and yet it continues. People continue to
Yeah.
pass buses.
Yes, they do. And
So
this
it's
will
a great
give you-
idea to have a camera.
be a way to record that and remind people through probably fines and tickets that they need to be paying attention.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well,
Okay.
thank you as
Thank you.
ever. Let's move on to Representative Javity.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Always good to hear Senator Weber's voice on a Tuesday morning telling us about all the great things going on in her world, and I definitely appreciate her. She's fantastic to work with, as are you all. Well, I'll kind of fill in some of the gaps here so that I don't repeat too much of what my good colleague said. Yesterday, we'll start with the budget. The governor released her proposed budget for the upcoming session. It is $39 billion. Now, that's just the money that the state raises or plans to spend directly with money that they've raised through tax revenue. There'll be another $100 billion on top of that we'll receive from the federal government, usually in the form of match dollars. So, like Senator Weber was talking about, we've got that problem with the wildfire and firefighter pay from the 2024 season. Some of that money, most of that money, will come from the federal government, but it is concerning that we haven't been able to pay those firefighters. So I'll get into that in just a second. So again, $39 billion is what she's proposing. Now in the last biennium, between 21 and 23 and 25, sorry, boy, it was a long Thanksgiving weekend. But the last biennium, she asked for $33 billion. So if you do the math, she's asking for a 17% increase to her budget, which is gigantic. And the way that that's going to break out is, for example, the Oregon Department of Transportation, she's asking for $1.7 billion. Now that money generally comes through increased fees that Oregon Department of Transportation charges drivers, both UNI and commercial. For housing, she wants $684 million. Most of that's going to go to homelessness. I think almost over half of it will go to either building new shelters or fixing up old shelters. Education, there's a 10% increase. So we're going to go last year last biennium we allocated $10.3 billion, which was not the number that our school districts wanted, but it was up from the original $9.9 billion that the school districts needed. So they went to 10.3. Now we'll be at 11.4. So that's about a 10% increase. And interestingly, I was up in Clatskanie yesterday at their school board meeting. And, usually around in December, my experience has been that school districts would really, really want to talk with Senator Weber and I because, they've got concerns. They want to make sure that if there's any chance to revise, edit, change any of the budget numbers for the schools, that we put our best effort forward to do that. And I was over in Clatskanie, and they were very appreciative of the increase in the budget because, current service levels, which is, what we generally spent last time, they call that the current service level, as you know, and that goes up slightly every year because of pay increases, 3 to 5% cost of living increases. And so this does help take care of that. However, it's still left school districts like Clatskanie, and I'm imagining the same will be true of Tillamook and Connie, Nestucca, Seaside, all the way up and down Highway 101 as far as their PERS obligation. So in other words, they're saying they don't have the money in that budget to help them meet their PERS obligations for staffing, which means they still have to meet those PERS obligations, but they have to use money that they already have that they're given for other purposes. So basically, hiring a teacher or laying off a teacher in order to make sure that the PERS dollars get paid. So they are concerned about that. They'd like to see that adjusted. The governor did acknowledge that PERS is, quite expensive and requires a lot of money. And but there was no answer as to how she's going to do that. So the schools, I'm sure, are having conversations with their budget committees on what to do and what that's going to look like for each district. And I'm meeting with the other school districts over the next couple of weeks. I'll have more specifics on what the impact will be for them. Back to wildfire. So that was $150 million that are owed to the firefighters in Oregon. And there are several, like Senator Weber was mentioning, firefighter contractors who have not been able to pay their staff. In fact, had to go get loans to pay, and some upwards of $1 million they're owed by the state of Oregon. And that's a little alarming. I feel like as a state and the state government, we have to be very good about paying our bills in a timely manner, especially when we're asking, like Senator Weber said, these men and women to go onto the front lines, put their lives in danger, and their families make great sacrifices for them to do that. And for us to not be able to pay them, I think is alarming. And so, while I don't think there's anyone at the state level who's up to no good, I do think it kind of peels back the covers a little bit and says, what's going on? Why can't we pay our bills on time? Like, why, if we're asking for example, a 17% increase in our budget, why aren't we setting aside enough money for contingencies? And so we'll have a special session next week, like Senator Weber said, on Thursday, which we all found out about a week ago, where we'll go and allocate the money so the governor can spend that on the to get to the firefighters while she waits for the federal government to reimburse our actual firefighting expenses. And we want to make sure we've made them whole, because in 2025, we're likely to have more fires, and we don't want the firefighters to wonder if they're going to get paid. I will try to be at the Pacific City Chamber meeting tonight. I am looking forward to seeing the individuals and businesses that are recognized. Some bills I'm working on as we get ready for the session. I had a lady last week call. One of her children needed to have some specialty care, and there was nobody on the Oregon coast that could provide that care, so she had to go into OHSU and for a single day visit just for an exam, so that her child could get what the evaluation she needed was $5,000, and her insurance didn't cover it because OHSU was out of network. So she had insurance, great insurance. Both her and her husband had insurance, and because this provider, the only provider that was available to this family, it was out of network, we were left with a $5,000 bill, which of course most of us don't have $5,000 at the drop of a hat ready to spend. And so I'm introducing a bill that will make all pediatric care in Oregon treated as in-network regardless of where it happens, so that children don't end up being the victims of a system that tries to prioritize doctors being in their network, which then lead, if a doctor isn't for whatever reason, they find themselves, the patient bearing the brunt of that cost when patients didn't really have any say anyway in who was in network and who wasn't. So we'll be looking at that, and also got a draft back on a bill that I'm working on with my colleagues that is taking aim at our OSHA, who is trying to prevent farmers from housing people, their employees in housing within 500 feet of livestock operations. So the initial draft that I got back from the Legislative Council said, farmers can't, OSHA can't make farmers rip down their houses, and they can't make farmers move their houses, but they forgot to include that it's okay for farmers to keep people in those houses even if they're within 500 feet. So the bill was targeting the structure and not the people living in the structure, and I needed to send that back for revisions to make sure that it's the people can still, farm workers can still work on farms and live in housing that's already built, that's within 500 feet of livestock operations, so that we don't find put our farmers and our farm workers in a lurch when it comes to making sure they have a safe place to live. And that is it. We do have legislative days next week, like Senator Weber mentioned. I'll be there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It looks like it'll be busy as we start, seeing the final reports coming in from a lot of task forces and getting previews on a lot of bills that we'll be talking about next session. Nothing very specific. I'm busy reading through bills as well, and trying to get a handle on what might be coming. It's always, like Senator Weber said, kind of tricky right now because we don't know what bills will actually make it past the Speaker of the House's desk or the Senate President's desk. So sometimes we'll spend a lot of effort reading bills, and then only a small fraction of those, well, actually more than a small fraction. A small fraction don't make it through. We just don't know which ones are going to be, and so it's a little bit of wondering which bill we should spend our time looking at. And one last moment. It is official that we the Democrats will have a supermajority in both chambers. So what that really means is that it is possible for tax increases for bills that will increase taxes to make it all the way through the House to the governor's desk without any input from the minority party, which is the Republicans in Oregon. And so while I haven't heard of any specific taxes that are being considered, if the governor is proposing a $39 billion budget, which is a 17% increase, I don't know that we'll be able to afford that without some type of tax increase. So I will keep my eyes and ears peeled, and I'm sure everyone will be doing the same to see if and what tax increases might be coming our way in order to fund the governor's new budget. And with that, Commissioners, if you have any questions or comments, I'm happy to take a couple of minutes to answer those.
Thank you, Representative. I appreciate your report. A couple things that you mentioned I wanted to comment on. One is that I'm really glad that you're working on the proposed regulations for farm workers within 500 feet, housing within 500 feet of animal operation, because we've heard from local farmers that would just decimate their operations, that they have housing for their workers, and it's within 500 feet of animal operations. And if they can't use that housing, then they may lose those workers, and their workers will lose their housing. And so it just could have devastating impacts locally.
Absolutely. It's one of those things I don't love when government, you have, honest, hardworking people who, made investments and have businesses to run, and the government comes in with a pen stroke and changes everything, and it really throws some of these businesses into a tailspin when because you can't just build a house,
Right.
just like that, especially with the FEMA buyout overlay. Like, how are farmers supposed to respond? I mean, they're getting hemmed in on both sides. We're making it impossible for the private sector to do its job. I mean, people are just going to throw their hands up in the air at some point.
Yeah. So thank you for your work on that, because it's really important. And I agree. It seems to be way too easy for people in Salem or elsewhere to make a decision that sounds good on paper without having researched the actual impact.
Yeah, I agree.
And I also was interested in listening to you talk about the funding for wildfire and funding for the Department of Forestry, which provides a lot of the response to wildfire. And of course, I assume everyone is grateful for their work fighting wildfire. I don't think anybody would argue with that at all. What I think is interesting and sort of sticks in my craw is that the Board of Forestry voted for the Habitat Conservation Plan, which obviously will decrease the revenue that comes from forests, not only decrease it for the counties, but also decreases the revenue that comes from forests for the Board of Forestry, for the Department of Forestry to operate. So the decision was made for a substantial decrease in revenue, which means that they can't pay for the work that they need to do, let alone paying us. And now, presumably, taxpayers will need to fill in the gaps in terms of paying to get that work done, which I just think is maddening. I think the Board of Forestry should be responsible to balance that budget.
You're absolutely right. I can't agree more. It's really frustrating. I had Mike Wilson, who's the chief forester, and Cal Nakamoto, who's the state forester, in my office, and said, to both of them, like, what is the plan when you're going to cut funding for your own department through the Habitat Conservation Plan? How are you going to fund operations? Do you really expect the legislature to be sympathetic when you come back in the next biennium and say, hey, we need tens of millions of dollars to make, things right, to make things work, because we're not getting that revenue from the forest anymore. And they said, they would not answer the question. And I know that was brought up several times in public meetings, through listening sessions, et cetera. And now here we are, just like you said, with a problem where they don't have enough money to, let alone run their own operations, but, take care of wildfires. And in their defense, a lot of this money is owed to us by the federal government, who's, like Senator Weber said, FEMA's dragging their feet, which doesn't inspire confidence when you're hoping that you can get paid. But the maddening thing, and I know you know this, and then Commissioner Olson and Commissioner Scar know it, that there was an alternative habitat conservation plan on the table that would have balanced the conservation goals that were important for the state forest with our harvest, with our revenue goals, and we would not have seen a decrease in timber revenue. But that alternative was tabled. There was no discussion about it. And it's very frustrating that now we find ourselves in this situation. And I agree with you. They're going to have to keep coming back to the table every biennium, because there's going to be this hole they need to fill. And that means, like you said, the taxpayers are going to be on the hook. And, we might see something like a severance tax come from the legislature this year, which says, when you cut down a tree, you also have to pay a tax on top of that. And that money will go into, state coffers. And that's something that's been done in the past, and something that, it would put a burden on our forestry operations. We get paid by, the small businesses and big businesses that make a living managing our natural resources. So I don't know what's coming, but it is alarming, and we will have a bill this session that tries to increase the amount of accountability and transparency that we get out of the Department of Forestry and the Board of Forestry. And if we can do something that says, hey, if you're going to cut your own funding, you have to propose funding, a way to replace that funding before you can make any type of changes like this, that would be wonderful. I don't know if we'll be able to get it through committee, but it's something that myself, Senator Weber, and Representative Owens, who is on that committee, will really push for in this upcoming session, because this has a huge impact, and uncertainty, we know, is the enemy of economic progress, and so we want to make sure that we're not introducing too much weirdness into the system that makes everybody, like I said, kind of throw their hands up and say, "Geez, forget it, too hard."
Thank you. Thanks for your work on that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'll ask my fellow commissioners if they have any comments or questions for you.
Well, not hearing any, but I do would like to meet with all three of you over the course of the next couple of weeks, just to discuss issues that we need to make sure are highlighted in Salem. So I'll follow up with texts and emails to try to set that up with each of you. But then looking forward to talking to you, and I will try to be on the call next Tuesday morning. I don't think I've got an early morning committee meeting on the 10th, so
Terrific.
I should be available.
Great. Thank you. And I'll look forward to meeting with you.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks. Have a great day.
You too.
Well, let's move on to the Nehalem Bay Health Center and Pharmacy. Gail Nelson.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I have 3 announcements. First of all, good morning, everyone. Open Enrollment Insurance Assistant event will be next Wednesday, December 11th, from 3 to 5 at the Tillamook Library. So we will have our certified insurance assister there at the library's Copeland room to help people sign up for the Oregon Health Plan or find a plan through the Oregon Health Insurance Marketplace. There's no charge for these services and no appointment is needed. And however, we cannot help with Medicare signups, but we do know who can help you. So we will help connect you with people if that is your desire. And then there is a Nehalem Bay Health District Winter Open House. It's their first open house. It will be Thursday, December 5th, 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. at Pine Grove Community House in Manzanita. We will be there. We invite the community to join us at the event. Many community partners will be providing updates there, and we will also be seeking feedback on healthcare and wellness-related services desired here in North County. And finally, construction update. Last week, the crews poured the concrete slab, so now you can see a clear outline of where the building will be. So this week, their construction crews will begin framing the walls and trenching for conduit installation. And that's it for me this morning, unless there's any questions.
Thank you, Gail. I appreciate that. I drive by the construction site regularly and have seen it coming together, and it's very exciting. Construction in general is exciting to me. I love the way that you can see it happen, stage by stage, and it's really, I'm thrilled for the community.
Thank you, and we are too. It's going to be fabulous.
Okay, well, I appreciate your report, and we can move on from there to Tillamook Family Counseling Center and Frank Henry Williams. Do we have Frank with us today? If not, let's move on to the Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Brown, are you online?
I am here. Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning.
Well, first and foremost, I want to say that I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. I want to wish everybody happy holidays coming up. I'm a big believer in family, so hopefully everybody got to spend time, good quality time with family, maybe even family they haven't seen for a while. So hopefully, like I said, everybody had a good Thanksgiving, and I hope that they have a good Christmas and New Year. So I got a handful of stats here that I'd like to share for the month of November. First is our total calls for service was 1,311. Comparing that to last year was 1,312. So it's kind of uncanny how spot on those two numbers are. So we're pretty consistent with where we were last year. We did respond to 11 assault calls. Property type crimes, so burglary, theft, and trespass, I combined all of those. We responded to 36. Interestingly enough, that is down from 49 the year before. Our CAMI calls, which is child abuse or child neglect type calls, we had 36 in 2024. 23 CAMI calls. That is also down from November of last year. We had 22 disturbance calls that we responded to, which is more than double of what we had in November of 2023. Motor vehicle accidents and recreational accidents that we've responded to, we responded to 36, which is about the same as what last year was. Search and rescues or missing persons, we responded to 7 this month or in November. Last year it was about 8, so we're about the same as we were there. We had 19 arrests for the month of November. There may still be some that have not entered the computer system yet, but that is the number we're looking at. That's slightly down only by 4 from last year. And we had 47 cases. And again, that's another stat that could be increased as we get further in the month. It just depends on information getting input into the computer. What's interesting about that is I noted there was a couple of calls that were down significantly, or call types. Generally, that means there's going to be some sort of a switch. So other call types will be up and others will be down. And without looking at every type of call that we take, it's hard to say exactly which call types that it is that would be up. I can actually say that our traffic stops were up quite a bit this month over last year at this time. We had 167 traffic stops. And I believe I've mentioned this before, that traffic stops are what we consider self-initiated activity. They're not necessarily in response to a call that's been called in by the public. There are traffic complaints, and sometimes we're able to make traffic stops on those, but self-initiated activity or proactive policing is beneficial, because when people see us out there running traffic or trying to gain compliance, it helps slow people down, which in turn decreases the number of crashes, or can certainly help in that. So our traffic stops were up this month comparative to last year. Our business checks were also considerably higher than November of 2023. So having our call types be a little less, or some of the call types being a little less, allows our deputies to do some of the proactive policing that is self-initiated to help prevent crime or prevent crashes. So just kind of interesting how it goes year to year or month to month, how things vary and move around a little bit. So those are the stats that I have to be able to report. We had our hiring event this last month. We did testing on a Thursday of one week, and by the next week we were doing interviews. We had reasonable success from that. We had a good turnout for the physical ORPAT test, and we were able to conduct, I believe it was 7 or 8 interviews. We left the job openings open for another week, and I believe we're compiling a list of more potential interviewees for positions. We have quite a few open here. As I may have mentioned before, our former records clerk on the sheriff's office side moved over to a corrections deputy position, so she advanced within our own office. We are very excited about that. And another thing I wanted to talk about specifically was that corrections deputy graduated this month. The academy, the DPSST Academy. So we are very excited to have her back after graduating and learning a lot at the academy. And she's in the training program, and hopefully she'll be running full bore here pretty soon. So I believe that is all that I have to share. Nothing of major note at this time to talk about coming up in December. Some of my team will be attending the Oregon State Sheriff's Association annual conference, which is the big one for sheriffs and sheriff's offices. So we're excited about that, and the networking and different things, training that happens there. So I can take any questions if anybody has any.
Thank you, Sheriff. Do we have any questions for the Sheriff? Well, if not, I appreciate your service and I appreciate your report. It's really interesting when you join us and share stats with us, so thank you.
You bet. You're very, very welcome.
All right, let's move on to emergency management. Randy Thorpe.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning.
Well, to start off with, enjoy sunshine the next couple of days, because it looks like Wednesday night we're going to get back to that nasty rainy weather. So it's a beautiful day today. A little bit chilly, but it's nice when the sun's out. And because of cold weather is coming up, we got to make sure that your car is ready for the winter weather. You know, make sure your windshield wiper fluid has some kind of a wintertime mixture. So when you need to get that crud off your windshield, you don't just realize that it's frozen. And the other thing is make sure your tires have some adequate tread, and make sure you keep those pressures, you know, where the manufacturers recommend. That's usually around 30, 35 pounds per square inch. And, you know, and also, you know, keep your gas tank full. You never know when you're going to need to go somewhere and stations may be closed. And just make sure everything's in good working order, just so you don't get stranded anywhere, because this is not the time of year you want to do that. The other thing we got to be cautious of now that it's getting colder, winter's coming, is that any type of house heating that you're going to do, we got to make sure that we don't create any types of fire hazards. So just, you know, make sure that your fireplaces, your wood stoves are adequate. They're operating correctly, and any of your flues or chimneys don't have any buildup in them. And just make sure you plug your space heater directly into an outlet. You know, if you take it over 2 or 3 extension cords, that's just asking for trouble on that. And of course, don't open your oven and try to heat your house by using your oven. That's I don't know. I guess some people may do that, but that's not a good thing either. And then lastly, I just want to make sure that I keep emphasizing this, is that you need to sign up for our county emergency alerts. And you can do it by going to the emergency management webpage there on the county. And the link is on that first page. Or another way you can do it is just go to the Alerts webpage, and that's at www.oralerts, ORALERT, not an S on that, sorry, .gov. And then you just type in Tillamook County for your local alert system that you want. And this is going to allow you to go ahead and get those alerts, especially with the weather conditions changing. National Weather Service sends out quite a few alerts. And one good thing about it now is that you can go in and choose what type of weather alerts you want to get. So if you don't want to get certain ones, you can not check that box. Plus, if you decide you don't want to be bothered with alerts during certain times of the day, you can go ahead and set some quiet time. So anyway, it's a pretty good system to sign up for, and I urge everybody to take the time to sign up and make sure that all your friends and neighbors and family also sign up. And you don't have to be a resident here to sign up for those alerts. So if people want to know what's going on in Tillamook County, they can sign up for Pacific Alert's in this county too. So with that, enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll turn it back to Commissioner Bell.
Thank you, Randy. Do we have Bill Jablonski on with us this morning from the Oregon Department of Transportation?
Good morning, Commissioner. Yes, you do.
Good morning. Nice to hear your voice.
Thank you. Yeah, and good morning, Tillamook County. First of all, I just want to acknowledge Senator Weber's continued support and advocacy for ODOT at the legislative level. I just really, her communication with myself and District Manager Mark Buffington over the last couple of years has been phenomenal. So thank you, Senator, for keeping an eye on us at that legislative level and being an advocate for us. I know that internal staff, we do what we can, but it goes outside of our boundaries on what we can do and advocate for. So thank you, Senator Weber, for that acknowledgement, and thank you for your support at the table on reviewing those bills and as well as too. So thank you for that as well. What I'd like to do today is just do a quick winter maintenance review for Tillamook County and talk a little bit more about de-icer. I know those are on everyone's minds, especially given the last frosty mornings that we've had the last couple of days, including this morning. The Tillamook crew runs two 10-hour shifts. So those are covered by a morning shift or a day shift and a night shift. And I also want to let you know that if you're running a crew at night, those folks need to rest and sleep. And so you're going to see probably a reduced level of service during the day, since we'll have less crew members actually to run around and drive in those vehicles. We do have 6 de-icer trucks that run around for the whole district. So if you can imagine, we go on 101 from Neahkahnie Mountain down to Neskowin. So that's quite a haul covering 101. Of course, we have the 50 miles of Oregon 6 that runs between Tillamook and Washington County. And then our Manning shop, which mainly covers Washington County, meets us right around mile point 28 on Oregon 6 is kind of the turnaround between the two maintenance stations. So we're running those 6 trucks, as often as we can, including the lower volume highways of 130, 131, Highway 53, et cetera. And you have to also remember that those trucks run pretty slow, and they're applying that de-icer chemical at a rate that's appropriate for the temperature and the dew point. De-icer on the North Coast is really a preventative, so it's best to be applied to a dry surface prior to any kind of moisture. And here in the North Coast, it's kind of an art and science on applying de-icer. So we may go by a certain stretch of highway, but the weather changes. Randy Thorpe can probably attest to that. The weather can change, in a minute, and within 45 minutes or an hour after applying the de-icer, the weather conditions at that section of highway has changed, where it maybe has diluted the de-icer on the highway. But it's going to be a while before we actually can pass again with that vehicle, considering the number of miles that we have in the Tillamook County area. So I really appreciate everyone's patience with driving appropriately, being prepared. You want to prepare for your vehicles and for yourself, and just allowing that grace for ODOT to be able to get out to those roads and those sections, curves, bridges, the problem areas that we know in Tillamook County. I also want to give a shout out to the ODOT internal team, who have been very strong advocates for funding on behalf of the Tillamook County area. I know that where we have a shortfall in state funding, we've been very successful at applying for federal grants to shore up some construction money for some of our projects. So Butte Creek on 101 around the Neskowin area there, we were very successful at applying for a federal grant, competing at a federal level for the $6 million for construction for that project. So where we fall short, because we are a rural area, it's really hard for us to compete for the valley, because that's where the population lives. But our Northwest area does very well as far as funding goes for our needs up here. Although, I'd like to see more of it come in, and that's where the legislative support helps us with that. Also want to let folks know that the Northwest Act meets this month. That's the joint group of folks who are related to transportation for Columbia, Clatsop, Western Washington County, and Tillamook County. That meets every month, or every other month, excuse me. So our December meeting is in Columbia County in person this month, but there's also a virtual option. And I will send the Tillamook County staff the link when I get the information from the admin folks for the Northwest Act. I'll send that for their use on their website, so you can participate either in person or virtual as well too. I also want to address Oregon 6 at mile point 35. I know with the last slew of heavy rains we had a week ago, we did see the grade actually slip on the westbound side of Oregon 6. What we can do right now is patch. We can patch and bring that grade to some kind of condition where it's somewhat drivable to have 2 lanes open. Back in 2022, we did submit to the legislature the Oregon 6 safety study, in which we did have a fix and a price tag for that section of highway between mile point 31 to 35. It's $75 to $100+ million for a complete fix for that area. That's something that we just don't have budget for, but we're certainly going to be, talking to the legislature hopefully, and also applying for those federal dollars that we've been successful at, and helping, pick away at what that solution is for that. So on the maintenance side, what we can do is patch at this point. We are monitoring that section, of course, that we do every winter. We do have a plan that if we are having to keep 2 lanes of traffic open, we can shift the alignment further to the south and create that 2 lanes that direction there, and kind of use the existing eastbound lane and then create a temporary eastbound lane on the direction. If we move to the south, we can remove some of that guardrail that's there to kind of create 2 lanes. So if we have to take measures that drastic, if we can't keep the patch in place on that westbound lane at mile point 35. So we do have a fix. It's going to be an ugly fix to do for sure over the wintertime, but that'd be a way for us to be able to keep 2 lanes of traffic. But again, we'll continue to monitor. Folks like Jesse Burrows is always calling Mark Buffington and myself, keeping in contact. Grateful for his involvement as well too, and also the education for the public as well, and what it takes to maintain highways. So happy to have that connection with the public as well too. With that, I'll end my update, and I'll take any questions that commissioners or the county has.
Thank you, Bill. Do we have any questions for Bill? Well, I am grateful for your work and that of your team. It was, I guess, just yesterday when I was driving in, and it was icy, and I saw ODOT folks out and about on Highway 101, and I was just really grateful, that you folks were on the job. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks.
Okay, if we don't have anything else for Bill, let's move on to the Board of Commissioners report and start with Commissioner Scar.
Good morning. Thank you.
Good
I
morning.
haven't been here for a couple of weeks, so it feels like there's probably a million things that have happened. So I'll just try to be kind of brief, though, because we're running long this morning. So I've had the opportunity to get out and represent the county and learn a lot of great things in our natural resource world. Recently, I attended the Coastal Conservation Association annual banquet, which is a wonderful statewide organization that also has a local chapter that raises money to support our hatchery programs here in our county. So it was great to be there. It's great to hear from a fabulous biologist talking about the interplay between hatchery fish and wild fish, and really sharing some great data around the fact that they work well together, that it is not an issue, and that the narrative that's been raised out in the world that says that hatchery fish somehow inhibit the life cycle of wild fish and that we need to end our hatchery programs, science doesn't bear that truth. And so it's great to be able to be there to listen to the presentation. I also had the opportunity to connect with a couple of different legislators at the state level that were there. Christine Drazen was there. She's a very strong supporter of the hatchery system, so it was wonderful to make that connection and just to really speak to folks about the importance of this for Tillamook County. So that was a great opportunity I had. Followed that up very shortly thereafter with our Association of Oregon Counties conference. Great conference, lots of good information shared. One of the pieces that happened there is I've been elected as the chair for the Council of Forest Trust Land Counties, which puts Tillamook County back in the driver's seat, if you will, as Commissioner Yamamoto was in many of the conversations that exist with the Department of Forestry as well as the Board of Forestry. So it's a good opportunity for Tillamook County. At this point, we have 2 seats on that board. Commissioner Olson fills the 2nd seat, and following the end of his term and the selection of liaisons, we will select another Tillamook County Commissioner to join me on that board to, again, make sure that our voices is very well heard at the state level as we look at what we can and must do in our partnership with the Department of Forestry and the Board of Forestry as we continue to move forward in the situation that we all find ourselves in. Last night, I had the opportunity to attend the Tillamook Working Lands and Waters Coalition holiday gathering, which is, the Tillamook Working Lands and Waters is a local grassroots group. You've heard us speak about it often, that works to educate our community, to educate legislators, to educate anyone who we can get to join us about the best practices that we use in our natural resource management in Tillamook County. And that has really been impactful. We've had a number of tours with state legislators that we believe have been exceptionally helpful in really helping people understand that the pictures that folks have in their mind of how natural resources are managed are a very old model, and that the best practices we use here today are exceptional. Our most recent tour was a highlight of the new private forest accord work that was done by a working group, put into practice by the legislature, and now is being done by our forestry folks locally. Great opportunity to get on the land and see the good work that's being done, and also to understand the financial impacts that is had in our community. At this point, cuts that are done by our forestry folks take about a 10% financial hit because of lands that are no longer able to be cut. So again, good to get out on the land and see it. So good to be with this group last night, celebrating a year of success and looking forward to what we will do in the coming year with tours, etc. So that's it. Looking backwards, looking forward, we have our Housing Commission meeting this Thursday morning. As always, I like to highlight those. They are great meetings. It is held at the Port in their boardroom. You can also find the link for that online if you'd like to listen in. So we invite you to join us 9 a.m. this Thursday morning for the Housing Commission meeting. And I know this was already mentioned, but I'll bring it up again. This Friday is Festival of the Trees at the Pioneer Museum. I have the opportunity to sit on that board. It is a great organization. It is also a great event. You can buy your tickets at the door, or if you hop online, you can get them for $5 per person cheaper by buying in advance. So hope to see everyone at the Festival of Trees this Friday at 5:30. With that, Commissioner Bell, I will return it to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Well, let's move on to Commissioner Olson.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. Good morning again. I have to make a quick comment on what Commissioner Scar said about the wild versus hatchery fish. I've been fishing since I could almost walk many, many years ago, and caught my share of fish, I guess. And I wrote an article one time for Salmon, Trout, and Steelheader magazine about hatchery versus wild fish. And the basis was there was a biologist at Oregon State University who took two of the DNA strips, one from a wild fish and another from a hatchery. And I believe there was salmon, not steelhead, but and he compared them, and he invited anybody to point out a difference. And of course, no one could. And the conclusion was that hatchery fish are identical to ocean or wild fish because they come from the same stock going back many thousands of years. And so glad to hear that they acknowledged they were the same. And so I guess the fish wars go on. So I'll mention just a couple of other things here too, since we are short. Yesterday was a pretty important day in the cycle of elections. Tillamook County certified the election of November 5, meaning that it's final, it's closed, and the results have been forwarded onto the Secretary of State as well as into the permanent records of Tillamook County. Now, of all the matters that were before voters and candidates and so on, there were really only three here in Tillamook County. One was our sheriff, Josh Brown, who was reelected, had no opposition, and also the county clerk, Christy Nithis, who also was elected and had no opposition. The third item was the radio bond that went before voters for $24.4 million, and it ended up passing by a margin of about 620 votes. So reasonably close, but also a clear yes vote in support of. So the election is officially done. Those results have been sent over to the Secretary of State, who takes those from the counties and then all the statewide and federal elections and does the same process to certify, and we call it good. And so despite all the criticism and comments about elections and things that may be done irregularly, shall we say, I think it's pretty clear in Oregon that our elections are above board. They're very, very visible. We had lots of people watching this one, both on live cameras and in person here in Tillamook County and across the state. And so it's hard to say that the system doesn't work. I think most reasonable people would say, indeed, it does work. It has an immense amount of protections. And while there may be an irregularity here and there, it's still run by human beings, but it's pretty darn good. And I would offer it's probably as good as any system in the whole world. So it's closed out for this year. And now the work will begin on the primary that's held every other year. Well, it's held every year, actually, but there will be a primary election again in May of 2025. And that will be a number of special districts, school boards, water districts, sanitary sewer districts, and so on, and probably a ballot measure or two from some of the different agencies. So we'll move on from that. Another item, the Fair Board meets next Tuesday, regular meeting, and we're talking about possibly arranging some long-term financing through banks for some of the capital needs. There's an immense amount of capital needs, several $1 million at our fairgrounds, but this would be a case where we would not ask voters to support anything. There's enough cash flow through the fair itself by virtue of the fair and all the many events that are there, that there is enough cash to service some level of medium-term debt and make some of the needed repairs. Many of them are almost fire life safety, structural in need, and of course there's some updates that need to be done for ADA, the Americans with Disability Act, so that folks who don't get around well or in a wheelchair can actually access everything in the fair. So more to come on that subject as well. We're meeting this Friday down in Newport, and I mentioned this, I think, last week. There's a group that's come back onto the scene called the Oregon Coast Zone Management Association. And it's a group of all the counties, many of the cities, almost nearly all the cities, other special districts, including water, sanitary, sewer districts, soil and water, and so on. And the idea is to have a collective voice with what goes on the territorial seas of the state as well as federal waters. And of course, there is a lot going on. There's considerable undersea cables. There's ocean energy, both wind and wave. There's fishery issues and access issues. And so if this comes together, and we're in the process now of hiring a firm to manage the organization and represent us before the Oregon legislature, that will happen. Some years ago, it was very active. It kind of went into suspension over the pandemic, but there was an individual named Anno Husing, who is now the planning director at Lincoln County. He ran that for a while, and going back a number of years, Paul Hanneman, who was both a state representative and a county commissioner, I think was active as well. So that's coming back to life to help watch and oversee and have a seat at the table for all the matters going on in the open sea. Mentioned by also a moment ago, the ODOT representative, Bill Jablonski, Northwest Act and COLPAC meet next week in St. Helens. And why that's important is Northwest Act sets the priorities for ODOT and certain other similar organizations, and even county road systems participate. It sets the priorities for Northwest Oregon, the 4 counties, parts of Washington County, all of Columbia, Clatsop, and Tillamook counties. So that's a pretty important meeting because it lays out what should be done and in what order and what's most important and where is the most risk and so on. So that's a big item as well. And I will represent the county at that one in St. Helens. I've also gotten quite a bit of feedback on the FEMA letter that the board signed on to last week, I believe. All of it very positive. Nobody said, well, you should have knuckled under or you should have taken one of the options set out by FEMA. And for those who weren't paying attention, the county has said we don't like any of the three options, all of which were rather drastic. We didn't want to go in default on Oregon land use law. And so we sent a pretty a well-worded, professionally written letter saying essentially, we'll see you in court. We don't like what you're telling us to do, and we believe there are better options, and we may be talking to a judge about it. So the feedback has been all positive from Tillamook County, and of course, we'll see what happens over the coming months and years. And the last thing I'll mention, I think Senator Weber mentioned it as well. The Pacific City Nestucca Valley Chamber has our annual awards banquet this evening at the Kiwanda Community Center. There's, I think, a few tickets left. We sell out every year, usually about 125 people, and I think there's maybe a half dozen or so. So you can dial 1-888-549-2632, which is 888 Kiwanda, and order your tickets. We give an award to the Citizen of the Year, the Business of the Year, the Volunteer of the Year, and this year we have a separate special award to an individual who has made some pretty significant things happen in South Tillamook County. It's a very nice dinner. The cost this year is $65, which is a lot of money, but you'll also get to hear the awards, and there also will be a presentation about the proposed Dory Museum. The Dorymen's Association has taken the first steps, including an agreement, the start of an agreement with Tillamook County to supply some land for a Doryman Museum that will be next to the Kiwanda Community Center. So we'll have some comments about that tonight and some pictures, some drawings. I think the architect will be there along with representatives of the Dorymen's Association. So if you don't have anything on your schedule tonight, please consider coming down. The weather is acceptable. Last year, we almost closed it because it was icy and a really ugly night, but I think you could get around tonight. So with that, Commissioner, I'll just sign off. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doug. Well, I appreciate everyone's reports this morning, and I'll just add a few things quickly. I appreciate that Doug talked about our decision to FEMA. I also have received quite a bit of feedback about that, and all of it positive. And so I wanted to follow up this week because we talked about it last week before we had voted. But I received a question yesterday from someone via email about have we heard back from FEMA, and we have not. So FEMA has not yet responded to our option 4, and we will definitely let you know when they do. This week at our meeting, we'll have Senator Weber mentioned earlier the pool in Nehalem at North County Recreation District, and that they're building a pool. It's essential for life-saving, to teach local children how to swim and be safe around water. And they are short. They're short funding, and they're looking for funding to be able to finish the project. So this week at our meeting, we'll hear from NCRD. They have made a request for TLT funds to help them finish the pool project. So TLT, as folks may know, if you've been listening to these calls, stands for Transient Lodging Tax. So we collect transient lodging taxes, and 70% of the money that we collect has to be reinvested in tourism facilities or tourism promotion. And the NCRD pool facility certainly qualifies as a tourism facility because lots of visitors use it when they come to town. So those folks will be asking if we will dedicate some TLT funds to help them finish their project. It seems to me like certainly a good use of those funds and an important investment in our community as well as in what visitors use when they come. So I'm interested in that conversation. And I just wanted to say, in addition to, a couple people have mentioned the Festival of Trees, and which is a fabulous event, and I hope that people will turn out for it. The public event is on Friday night, And it's beautiful, and it's a great way to start off the holiday season. And Senator Weber and her friends always decorate a beautiful tree. And for people who don't know, people in the community decorate trees and donate them and wreaths, and there are all kinds of silent auction items and tabletops and beautiful things that people can bid on. And then if you have the winning bid for a tree, they have some kind of fancy way of wrapping it up fully decorated and safely delivering it and unwrapping it at your house fully decorated. And there you will have a gorgeous tree that you didn't have to do anything but pay for. So it really is a very fun event. It's a significant fundraiser for the museum. And the county has the opportunity to have our employee Christmas party there tomorrow night, which is really pretty special because we get a preview of the Festival of Trees, and our employees and their families are invited to come and just enjoy the Festival of Trees and one another and some refreshments. And it's a lovely way for us to celebrate Christmas with our employees. And so I just want to say how very grateful I am for the Tillamook County Pioneer Museum and also for Tillamook County employees and their families and the sacrifices that they make all year long to provide essential services for our community. We have fabulous employees, and I look forward to celebrating the holiday season with them tomorrow night. And finally, I just wanted to mention something as an aside. I went to Portland with my son on Sunday to hear a Christmas concert. And I love to start the holiday season with music. It kind of gets me in the mood. And so what I wanted to mention is that we were walking around in downtown Portland, and their downtown Portland, they have moved there was a time in the recent past when the park blocks and downtown was full of houseless people. And it had made, I know I've heard a lot of people talk about that Portland has changed and they don't feel safe, etc. And what I wanted to mention is that Portland has made dramatic changes in how they're addressing houselessness. And there are no longer homeless camps on the streets of downtown Portland, and there are no longer homeless camps in the park blocks. And it reminded me of what Portland used to be like. And we wandered around downtown. We looked at the big tree in Pioneer Courthouse Square that came from Gaston, 80 feet tall or something. It's gorgeous. And we got something to eat, and we went to a concert, and it was like it used to be. We felt safe, and it was beautiful and clean. And I just wanted to share that because I know that in recent years, people have not felt safe there. So I wanted to share that they're doing something that's working, and it was delightful. And so I'll do some more research about where those folks have gone. But I asked somebody who said that they thought that they had established a place where houseless people could camp in a different area. And so they had come up with an organized area and said, you can't live here in the park blocks, but you can live in this other place. So I'm going to do some more research on that, and I'll report back and let you know what I find out about that, because whatever the model is from the perspective of a visitor to downtown Portland, it's totally working. So with that, I will move on to the cities and start with the city of Manzanita.
Well, Commissioner, could I add one more thing I overlooked that's fairly important?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yesterday, we had a Roads Advisory Committee meeting, went over all the projects like we do from time to time. But the big thing that changed a little bit is the Sand Lake Road that is between Tierra del Mar and Pacific City, scheduled to be repaired in 2025, rebuilt. It's actually now going to be pushed out to 2026. And the reason for that is the federal government is funding most of it. And we all know the federal government doesn't move at lightning speed. And so to get in the queue and get it done properly and paid for, it's going to be probably another 12 to 14 months beyond what we all understood. The good thing is that the traffic signals are working, the road is very stable, and it's really not much of an inconvenience. But the permanent fix is now out another 12 months or so. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Well, with that, let's move on to the City of Manzanita. Do we have Mayor Stock or Linda Kozlowski or anyone from Manzanita? Well, how about Nehalem or Wheeler or Rockaway Beach? Do we have Mayor McNeely on this morning? Well, let's move on to the City of Garibaldi. Or Bay City?
Bay City is here this morning, Commissioner. This is Mayor Welch. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Good. So a couple things that's happening in Bay City is we are actually having our porch parade Saturday, December 21st. And so we will be, if you'd like to decorate your cars, we start off with the fire engine, and we started this during COVID. And so we decorate our cars and drive around a route through Bay City, and people from their porches can wave. And then we'll be serving hot cocoa at the community hall after the porch parade. So I'm hoping that people turn out for that. Another exciting news is the City of Bay City has been recertified as FireWise. And we just received a grant from the Oregon State Fire Marshals for a excavator with a mower head so that we can try and reduce the ladder fuels in our rights of way, and then working with citizens on how to reduce fire fuels in their properties, especially those that aren't developed yet. So again, we continue to work on reducing our fire threat. In addition to that, then we're the City Council, which will be next Tuesday, December 10th at 6 p.m. One of our discussion items is on the provisional burning. And provisional burning, it's a permit that you get from our Fire Chief Christensen, and it's for fires that are bigger than a campfire in the back of your yard. These are like big burn piles, and we've had several of them this year. And so really trying to, with the inversion of our weather, some of the cold weather, some of that smoke has just been sitting around in the town. So that'll be on the City Council's discussion. For anybody who is interested in that, please come to that. And then the Bay City Emergency Volunteers, the next meeting is Monday, December 16th at 5:30. We received a $10,000 grant from the Bay City TLT program, and we're looking at what kinds of supplies should we be purchasing with that? What is our strategic goals? Is it just to save people that are in the community, or what are we trying to provide? And again, working with Randy Thorpe is trying to educate our citizens into be self-prepared, prepare yourself for home. But we also know we're going to have visitors in our community if we have a large earthquake, and so trying to figure out what are those supplies that we do need. So we continue to be proactive here in Bay City emergency preparedness. And again, I would also like to send an appreciation to all the employees of the City of Bay City. They're hardworking, again, providing those essential services to our community. And it's just a pleasure to be here in Bay City. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. That's a great report. And the porch decorating parade just sounds wonderful. That sounds delightful. Do we have Nathan George with us from the City of Tillamook?
I am here, Commissioner. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you very much. I was unable to attend last week as I was out on vacation for the holiday season, so I've kind of combined both of these for the 2 weeks, and I will try to go through them as quickly as possible. Again, I like to go through the real operational things of what we're doing so that you, the county, and our public know the different things the City of Tillamook is doing to try to make a better community for us. Last night, we had our December 2nd council meeting and work session, and at the work session, all four recruitment companies for the next city manager were interviewed, and then on the regular meeting, the council has chosen to go with the Wendy Brown Creative Partners, Inc., company known as WBCP. It's an Oregon-based executive recruitment firm, and they were chosen to assist the city council recruitment of the next city manager. So I am very pleased to have a professional recruiter working with the city council. I think that's the absolute best way to get a professional and educated and qualified candidates. So I'm very excited about that, and so are the staff and the council is too. Also, the city approved a resolution establishing immunity from certain personal injury or property damage claims as described in ORS 105.668 and as amended by the Senate Bill 1576. So just, I know it's been some time, but we talked about recreational immunity. There is an opt-in option in the state code, and I took it to the council to opt in. It helps provide additional protections for the city of Tillamook. Any city over 500,000 already has that option. If you're under 500,000, which is most of us, you have to opt in to get that option. And just really quickly too, on the additional provisions that were added in the legislative session, especially coming out of the Newport lawsuit against Newport, those actually sunset in January of 2026. So I think it's a really good idea. We had one counselor asking why other cities don't opt in, and I didn't really know because I don't know why they don't, but I do highly recommend that. So in the police department, and that was everything we had from last night. So actually a pretty short meeting. In police department, recently Chief Troxel attended the Houseless Action Network meeting. This group meets regularly to discuss those experiencing homelessness and how we can ensure our response is coordinated. So we actually had a couple of residents come last night and talk about homelessness. And, you know, one thing, we had a really good discussion about the things that we're doing and working on. One of those things we're working on is creating an environment where the folks who are homeless, who have not yet made it to low barrier housing or other types of housing or other programs, we're working on providing temporary resting places as we also at the same time work to clean up. I know the county is working, we appreciate very much, working on their property behind the post office. In the very near future, we'll be working on all the other properties in the city that are on city property, but working together to create a place where they can rest temporarily during the day is very important to meet state law, and also is the best thing we can do to help out with the funding that we have. So just wanted to say that in Tillamook County, of all the counties I ever worked in, I worked in a lot of states and a lot of places, and I have never seen a better county, not only response, but resources. Honestly, we have I've worked in counties with a whole lot more funding and resources, but the resources we have as far as the groups and the organizations and the people that are helping is just phenomenal. Way better than I've ever seen. So the number of participants for Shop a Cop fundraiser on November 19th that was hosted at Pacific Restaurant was very high and great success. We appreciate everyone who helped make many of the children in Tillamook County have a great Christmas. City would also like to thank Starbucks Restaurant on North Main Avenue for being another excellent coffee with the cup back on Wednesday, November 20th. It's a great opportunity for officers, and I got to be there as well to chat with residents. Chief Troxel attended the Public Safety Quarterly Collaboration meeting with Advanced Health in November. That was a well-attended meeting. It was a very good conversation and very good opportunity to collaborate. 2 weeks ago, Officer Fitzgerald and Chief Troxel attended the Tillamook County Sexual Assault Team meeting coordinated by Ties of Change. So he'd like to thank Ties of Change for their selfless dedication to this work. And Chief Troxel attended the Tillamook County Fire Defense Board meeting in 911 in November. It's also a great opportunity to network. This past week, Chief Troxel attended our security meeting at the courthouse. The partnership with our community and with the county and other agencies is very important in the police department. We appreciate the county and being allowed to be a part of that. During the holiday week at the end of November, it was a great opportunity for the police department and all of us to reflect on how faithful we are at the police department and our community support. The team, the police department, all of our coworkers, the city, Tillamook are just a few of the things we're thankful for. That's from the police department. Our Tillamook police officers worked some overtime for traffic enforcement this past week. We are pleased to report there were only a few incidents, or very few incidents during this holiday weekend. But with cooler temperatures, as it's been talked about earlier in the meeting, there are slippery roadways around the city, so please be careful. I myself have been careful and had a couple of minor sliding. Have to be very, very careful. In the Public Works Department, we have our 22nd annual Christmas tree lighting ceremony coming up this Saturday. So get ready to ring in the holiday season. On Saturday, this December 7th, it starts at 3 p.m., goes 3 to 6. We'll have festive fun for all ages, live entertainment, the Christmas light parade, free food and drinks, photos with Santa, exciting prizes. One lucky attendee will get to light the Christmas tree, and it will be, again, the big tree in front of the Transportation District's building, which we appreciate very much. And we also want to thank the TPUD for providing equipment so we could put up those lights. That was fantastic. This event is entirely free and supported by generous donations from local sponsors. We also, in addition to the Tillamook People's Utility District, the Grocery Outlet, Denny's, Domino's, Tillamook Creamery Association, the Fern, Starbucks, and Dutch Brothers. And if anybody wants to help be a part of that, please reach out to our Public Works Department. Ornament Scavenger Hunt, kick off the holiday season, encourage local shopping. The city is excited, has already launched and is continuing along with a festive ornament scavenger hunt. And it started on November 25th, but it goes through the 23rd. Residents, visitors can participate in this free fun event. Local businesses in Tillamook will hide special vouchers for holiday ornaments within their stores. Participants who find a voucher can redeem it at City Hall for a unique complimentary ornament. Additionally, 5 lucky finders will receive a special voucher redeemable for an ornament plus a gift basket filled with local products generously donated by small businesses, each valued at $50. So this is a really great event. One of our counselors last night talked about, I think it was Councilor Knopfsinger, talked about how much his son really enjoyed doing this. So that's through the 23rd. Please contact the city or Public Works Department for more information. In our surplus inventory, we have currently in the process of listing various items for surplus the auction. And items include wastewater and water treatment equipment, vehicles, office supplies, building supplies, and heavy equipment. These items are open for public bidding, can be found on govdeals.com/Tillamook. Again, we are just cleaning up all of the junk that's been accumulated over decades. In the first cleanup, we were able to get over $60,000 in auction, just junk sitting around. So we're continuing, getting closer to the end, but still got a lot of stuff. And then from there on out, we'll be organized and things will be only replaced when we need to. That's one of the things I wanted, and it's a great thing. Keep organized, we're more efficient, more effective, and our equipment's in better shape. In our Street and Parks Department, our Streets and Parks crews are working to keep the streets free of fallen leaves, which can clog the waste basins and lead to flooding. Street sweeping will continue to be frequent, so I know it's getting kind of the end of the leaf season, but please keep putting those in yard waste bins and not in the streets. And we encourage property owners to please trim any trees in the right of way to maintain clear sightlines and reduce debris. Our wastewater treatment division, work continues the installation of the East Gate lift station. The city will, and leaving Public Works area, city will begin hosting the annual Christmas lights home and business decorating contest. This will be advertised soon, so look forward to this announcement and get ready to participate and hopefully win the contest. And I believe the prize will be the same as last year, which is usually a month off on your water utilities. Free. A reminder, the city implemented a leak protection program for residents to help protect them from large amounts of undesirable water leaks. For everyone that did not opt out, this is available should they run into any issues. We've had several people take advantage of this, and it's helpful because they don't have to pay anything, and then the city collects the revenue from the program, so that's wonderful. Reminder, if you see something, say something by calling 911 for emergencies and dispatch for non-emergencies. And the next regular council meeting we held on Monday, December 16th. It will actually be held at 6 p.m. this time, and that 6 p.m. start time is accommodating executive sessions following the regular council meeting for the council and the department heads to interview these 3 finalists, the 3 finalists for the interim city manager. We encourage everyone interested in your local government to attend virtually or in person. So the council will come out of that executive session, and more than likely they will make an appointment, although they don't have to. They could delay it to a future meeting, but more than likely they probably will. So other than the actual interviews, we do encourage everyone to participate. And I'm very excited and want a huge thank you to the council for allowing the department heads to be a part of that process. That to me is the number one most important thing, is your department head and your team are the ones that work with the city manager. And they need to have the opportunity to provide input to the council so the council can make the best informed decision that they feel best about. So with that is all I have. Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Nathan. Well, I want to thank everyone for participating in the call this morning. Thank you, Tillamook County, for listening, and thanks, as always, to KTIL for broadcasting this call. We are adjourned at 9:39. Have a great day, everyone.